Needlepoint, the record collector podcast with Paul Lester and Daryl Easlea.
Hi, I'm Paul Lester, editor of Record Collector, Britain's oldest, longest enduring music monthly.
And I'm Daryl Easlea. I too work for Record Collector, and I am the editor of the Rare Record Price Guide.
And this is our podcast, Needlepoint, where we look at rock's rich tapestry, as Julie Burchill once called it, through the prism of the latest issue of our magazine.
Absolutely. And we look at it, it's called Needlepoint because you can cotton on to Needlepoint, if you will. But what you can do is we look at it like an album. We've got like one major track on the A side, and then on the B side we've got various different tracks. And possibly sometimes we have a bonus single or even a download card with extra material.
And plenty of hefty features. More than usual, actually, this time, because, Daryl, we haven't been around for a while, have we?
We
have the first Needlepoint we've done since, I think it was December, wasn't it?
It was. So Happy New Year, Paul.
Happy New Year to you.
Happy New Year to our listeners.
Yeah, we've got a couple of issues to discuss, haven't we? Because we haven't been around since December, at my estimation. That means 2 issues of the magazine. The first one was the first of the year, which was the mod cover.
Yep.
Which was great. Lois Wilson did a spectacular job on that. Got a really good reception on Planet Mod.
Yes, indeed.
We even got a certain Mr. Paul Weller ringing us up not personally, but his people contacted our people, well, me anyway, asking for an issue. So that was good. So it piqued his interest, his involvement in mod and the mod revival of the late 70s and early 80s. So that was the first one of the new year, and this was the second one, the controversial Bowie Prince double cover.
Yes.
Got lots of very. It got a mixed response. I mean, people liked it. Well, people were slightly horrified by the imagery, but we can discuss that in a minute.
Well, I think it's I think it's a perfect example of the Marmite thing, because there doesn't seem to be any in betweens. Either people love it or loathe it in all the comments we've had through. But the great thing is people are talking about it.
Well, my argument with we can still talk about mod in a bit, but my argument with the Bowie Prince cover and the illustration, the AI illustration that we used to illustrate Rob Hughes's excellent piece that investigated what happened to Bowie and Prince since they died, their catalogues, how their legacies have become slightly intertwined, the similarities, the differences. I mean, it's a really well-argued piece about them having more in common than you might imagine, and what their respective record companies have done to their oeuvres, whether they've improved upon them.
Yeah.
But yeah, our argument in the office was, well, let's do what Prince and Bowie may well have done. They were forward-facing individuals that like to illustrate their own work. I mean, what is Aladdin saying, if not a glorious illustration, an epic exaggeration, extrapolation, nay, of Bowie 73. So, we put Bowie and Prince together. Nothing too much going on there, but the suggestion, I suppose, is that they're together. Well, of course, they were never together, apart from once, I think, and that is addressed in the article.
Yes, yeah.
The point is, what would Bowie and Prince have done to illustrate themselves in 2026? And Bowie certainly would have had one eye on what AI was doing.
Oh, without a doubt.
There was that now infamous appearance on Jeremy Paxton's, was it Newsnight, where they talk about the internet, and Bowie...
He predicted the internet, David.
He invented the internet. He was a prophet, a seer, and a sage.
Indeed.
But, I think he would have been intrigued by it. I think he would have quite liked this. So I think it does... Go on.
It's interesting to think if they were alive. I mean, Bowie would be 79 now, and whether he would still be working or not, and how he would view his legacy and what he would do. I mean, Lazarus as a final statement and Black Star was, one of the most perfect exits of a pop star, of all time. Whereas I think Prince, I still, of all of them, and I've said this many times, I just feel there was more oil in the tank. He would have only been in his mid-60s, and he would have given a lot more. I would like to think. Whereas Bowie, I don't know. It was fascinating to end on Black Star. I mean, would he have then gone round and done a drill album or something, or would he have dealt with trap in some way? I mean, I don't know.
It's because Prince has got a reputation for being innovative and stuff. He didn't quite engage with the Beatgeist in the same way that Bowie did he?
No.
As soon as you heard the beat, it was, oh, that's Prince. There was much more a sense with Bowie of somebody grafting on rhythms and pulsations. I don't know, that gave it a sense of the artificial, maybe.
Well,
Prince's
I mean,
rhythms felt more authentic, but maybe because he didn't do a jungle album, did he? He didn't make a techno record.
no.
That Bowie kind of dabbled in those things.
No, and I will, as I wrote, I was very fortunate to write about Earthling in the standalone Record Collector Presents, and I have a tremendous amount of time for that. I think it's very interesting, and I think there was a definite fork in the road in the 90s where you either sort of looked at Uncle Tupelo one way or Underworld the other way, and it's like,
very good.
What's more exciting? What route is more exciting to travel? So, Paul, tell me, we have two fabulous issues. We haven't been around. There's marvellous pictures of us. We went to a Christmas party, which was one of the last times we saw each other, where we did a sort of live promo for Needlepoint, posing away there. And I think there's some pictures that Angie's going to say. By the way, this is Needlepoint Record Collectors Podcast. Please, we're really delighted we've got so many followers now. Follow us, the names, all of it at the bottom. Scrolling across, buy stuff, listen to us, tell other people about us. We're there. But yes, the last time we were together was Christmas, 18th of December at the party, we have seen each a couple of times.
We had so much to live for then. We were so much younger then.
But then we've both been poorly. You seem to have bucked the trend and got COVID, I hear.
Yeah, I thought I'd try a little bit of COVID again, because I hadn't had any for a while.
Right.
Since last Wednesday, I took a ride on my motorbike from Fleet Street to home in deepest Hertfordshire. I thought, that's rather cold. I felt absolutely blisteringly cold. I guess because I had COVID, that would have made me feel even colder and worse than I otherwise would. So I've been in bed pretty much since last Wednesday. And you've been in bed for about 2 weeks, haven't you?
I know.
You've been in the wars.
I'm smiling through at the moment, but I've had really bad food poisoning, which led to an infection. Down there, and really not effing good. Horrible. So it's a wonder we're here all together. But we're both, for our wonderful Needlepoint listenership, we have to be here. First. So the pod comes first. The mod came first. What a great issue. Chris Needs, of course, was in here with Bill Wyman, which was a wonderful,
great interview. Yeah, did a great chat, didn't he?
It was like the two boys had been waiting to meet for many years. It was like a great coming together.
Well, Chris has been writing about the Stones since the 70s, hasn't he? Since he was at Zigzag. And I imagine he's met Jagger and Keith a couple of times. I don't know if he'd ever met Bill before. And he wanted to do it before it was too late. As Bill Wyman himself declares, I'm the oldest rock star on the planet. He's probably not wrong there, actually. I suggested Willie Nelson, but Willie Nelson isn't quite a rock star, is he?
It's interesting because there was a meme going around after I'd read that in the mag, which listed all the old rock stars, and Bill Wyman wasn't in there.
Oh, right.
And I think it is, Willie Nelson's up there. Obviously, Dylan's coming up behind. Let's not forget Ringo's 86 this year.
86.
Which means Paul's 84. Which means John would have been 86. Which means George would have been 85. George, did you say? George, 85. Look at that. The Record Collector Presents. Look at... just came out at Christmas tide, the George Harrison issue. Absolutely splendid. And, of course, digressing again, the new Def Leppard issue is out to show what a broad church we are, to go from Harrison to Leppard in one fell swoop.
So it's been quite a busy start to the year, really. So we've had the George Harrison, we had the Christmas issue with Geldof on the cover. Then the new wave of mod, as dealt with in fine record collector style over many pages, about 16 to 18 pages, and we get some of the old gang back together. We speak to some of the old mods, some of Secret Affair. Let's see if we can remember any of the names. The Chords,
Squire
are in there. The Lambrettas.
The Lambrettas.
If you were ever asking the question, whatever happened to Doug Sanders of the Lambrettas? Well, he's in the last issue of Record Collector. Anthony Maynell of Squire.
The Circles.
And
of course, Ed, but what you forget, I sort of really came into contact with Ed Ball when he was with Creation and did the Mill Hill Self Hate Club, and obviously his big pal of Nick Hayward. Any pal of Nick Hayward's a pal of mine, and I'd sort of forgotten.
And sorry
to
interrupt, but Nick Hayward's going to be coming on the show, isn't he? At some point?
Sincerely, I hope we are going to bring guests in very soon.
Yes,
and Nick is Haircut 100 are back. And
yes. New album is it March? It's gone back to May though, isn't it?
I think March? So, yeah. And they're doing they've announced it. Their warm-up show, their first gig is in Southend-on-Sea, and so am I. So that is very exciting. However, yes. So coming back to Ed Ball, the Times. I sort of forget he was a mod as well. I'll tell you who else was a mod. And I only mention this because he's done a fabulous compilation, which I reviewed in the new issue. Steve Mason was a mod
Beta Band.
Of the Beta Band, and he was a very keen mod.
Mod or mod revivalist? I mean,
mod revivalist. I mean, obviously he wasn't. He's only in his early 50s. I don't think he was there right back in the day. But
here's a question. I'm going to throw that. We don't want to throw difficult questions at each other because we're just going to catch each other out. This is aimed at both of us. What is the essential difference between Mod 66 and Mod Revival 79? The clothes are quite similar, but a lot of the articles on Mod Revival allude to the energy of punk being absorbed by certain. Is that true? Is it faster? Is it heavier? Is it harder? Is it more angry?
I think I think it's an authenticity issue in one sense. I mean, I remember at the time, I was 13, and obviously mod was very much a thing at my school. Two-tone, working with at the same time, and there was a lot of talk from the older guard of plastic mod. Who's a plastic mod? And the whole mod revival.
That was a phrase, wasn't it? Plastic punk was bandied around as well. Plastic soul.
And plastic mod. There was a real feeling that the Jam was something separate. I mean, it was like the Jam to the mod revival, like the Beatles to Mersey Beat. But they ruled it. They were part of it, but they were above it as well. But I think by the time, and ironic because obviously Mick went to do such a sterling job with Weller on Cafe Blur and beyond. Like when the Merton Parkers and the Lambrettas came along, it was a bit like, okay, well they would have been doing, they would have been the Leighton Buzzards or something, or they would have been, the junk shop glam rock bands that came along, and this was the latest thing that came along. However, what this feature does is prove that completely wrong, because there was an absolute sincerity in it, and I think it was one of the first examples of things being easier to find. I mean, now if you want to be a mod, click 4 sites, buy some clothes, and you're a mod. Download a few playlists, know what records to buy, and you're fine. Whereas in 79, people were looking at those great ads at the back of Melody Maker and NME, for Stay Pressed and get your gear, your ex-army surplus, the fishtail
you had
park.
to work hard to achieve the look.
But whereas in the 60s, it was very much sort of like, seeking out the Italian stuff and going up west and getting the best shirts and getting, the right clobber. And the person always talk about the right clobber as well. I mean, he's he's a mod till he dies.
And some seriously good work was released under the moniker or the sobriquet of the mod revival. As Lois Wilson, the writer of the article or the cover story, points out, she chooses a mod revival top 20, which features such mod revivalists as the Cigarettes, Small World, Love Is Dead, the Kilometers are in there.
Yeah.
Speedball. I mean, I didn't know a lot of these, but
I mean, Speedball is fascinating because Speedball was a South End band, and they were power on that power punk mod trajectory. And the leader, Dave Dyke, he passed away, but the bass player was Guy Pratt.
Guy Pratt, that's right,
who then became Guy Pratt. But there's brilliant pictures of him in his book, down Clifftown Road in Southend, outside Nasty, which was our punk shop, TM, looking hard.
Talking of hard, I mean, it was terrifying walking the, not walking the plank, but...
Well, you did that in Watford, did you?
Well, Borehamwood, where I grew up.
You
took your life in your own hands.
Lots of bodies of water around there.
Yeah, there was a lot of chasing down the Borehamwood High Street, and the mod revivalists, had an air of menace about them, and that chant that they used to, "We are the mods, we are the mods." That was quite terrifying hearing that coming down the road.
Well,
you knew to make scarce.
Southend Bank Holidays. I mean,
Yeah,
because you'd had Quadrophenia out, because it was all
yeah.
sort of au courant. I mean, I remember Bank Holidays 79 or 80, being involved. Yobbos smashing up a petrol station when my father was trying to get some petrol. And I was looking on. And of course, my father used his old copper credentials, even though he'd been out of the force for a while. And he saw those boys, right, they left with a flea in their ear. But it was everywhere. South, a very febrile scene.
It was. Well, there were so many scenes. They came very quickly on the back, punk seeds to new wave, seeds to mod revivals. There were skinheads as well in the mix. I don't know, I can't remember who they were following. I guess punk and positive punk and oi was there. They all seem to be happening roughly at the same time between 78 and 81.
And don't forget, obviously down here, Ted's. I mean, Ted's never left.
Ted's, that's right.
And you had, it was Ted, Mods and Rockers was basically became Ted's, and Greasers in a sort of pact. Maybe it was like some. I can make some sort of, axis of evil pact or whatever, Locarno treaty or something. But anyway, we'll stop all that. But they sort of came together to fight the enemy of the mods, because Greasers, were the epitome of the opposite of mod. In fact, the film, think of Ray Winston as Jimmy's friend from school, and what happened to dear old Ray.
And the original rock and rollers, say if Heartbreak Hotel comes out in 56, the people that bought it would have been 15, 20. So they were probably only in their 40s.
Of course they were.
And you thought of them as ancient. Of course,
No.
40 now is an enfant terrible, isn't it? You've barely begun.
So anyway, that's all covered. What's also, we move on to the new mag that's out. And one of the great things that fed in to sort of punk and new wave and that era was reggae. And obviously we know why punks love reggae so much. Don Letts only had so many records, so played a lot of reggae at the Roxy, and then that spread out. Peel always loved his reggae, and it was there. And I think Johnny Johnson has done an absolutely cracking feature, and you just forget how many influential reggae records came out 50 years ago. It was almost like 1976. This was before, Branson had gone over with Lydon to really kick off Frontline, which was about 77, 78. But you just look at these numbers. I mean, the whole sort of Wailers diaspora were in their absolute pomp. And you've got Bob himself in here doing Rastaman. But then you've got Tosh doing Legalise It, which was quite incredible, and Bunny doing Black Art Man. There's three sort of classics, and I think Rastaman often Vibration gets overlooked by his bigger albums, sort of either side of it. But then you look at the Mighty Diamonds, Right Time, Burning Spear, Man in the Hills with a John Martin cameo, and of course Lee Perry overarching it all. You've got War in a Babylon, Max Romeo, but importantly you've got Super Ape. I mean, Super Ape, £80 in record collector's rare record price guide.
It was a great time for a sort of miscegenation or hybridizing. So you're moving again.
I think it's because you just said the word miscegenation. That's always a.
Yes, we'll have that. We'll excise that term.
Yeah.
No, but it was an interesting time for sonic extremes, and that, as much as any one individual artist or group, begat the next interesting development, which was post-punk.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Where you have legions and legions of white musicians assimilating the rhythms and the ideas and the sonic textures of black dance music, reggae, and funk and soul.
Well, I think obviously Wobble is your king there.
Well, it's a great period for bassists, because obviously you had Peter Hook at Joy Division.
Okay.
But yeah, you're right. Yeah, Pill and Metal Box, Talking Heads, Fear of Music. It was a Gang of Four, Entertainment, the album. There was straight lines you could draw from reggae to the that development in indie rock music.
Well,
But you're right. You're right to point out that '76 was important for not just punk but for reggae, which is why we've got Lois Wilson on the case doing a similar piece on great 1976 soul, disco, and funk albums. So that'll be in the next issue of
Yeah,
Record
no,
Collector.
I think it's there. I think also, from that we've also got in this issue the au pairs, and in our 45 RPM thing we have Leslie from the au pairs talking, which is a fascinating feature. And again, you look at those sort of those groups that were again on the fringes, but so sort of influential. Because everyone talks about the Slits, and that's fine. But the Raincoats and the Au Pairs, Delta 5, they were all pursuing their groove, and they all seemed to be sort of quite independent of each other in their lanes, as people say.
I know it was a particularly kind of what's the word? I've lost.
What is the word, Paul? Have you done this before? What?
Record Collector presents in-depth features, interviews, albums revisited and analysed, extensive discographies, collections and much more. Over 50 titles to choose from. Visit our online shop at www.recordcollectormag.com. Record Collector presents in-depth features, interviews, albums revisited and analysed, extensive discographies, collections and much more. Over 50 titles to choose from. Visit our online shop at www.recordcollectormag.com.
This is the illness issue, everybody. We're a bit slow.
This is I'm mentally slow.
Keep going.
It's a particularly jagged kind of dance or funk noir, they called it. It was like they sort of, I don't know about au pairs themselves, but as much as some of the other bands like the pop group in a certain ratio, they located, in Simon Reynolds' words, funk's heart of darkness. That's one of the interesting things that was happening in the late 70s. And Leslie Woods takes us back there in the 45 RPM interview this month.
And I think what is also fascinating, again, this cauldron at that time, you had the reggae here, you had mod revival here, you had post-punk or new wave as we used to call it in old money, and then you had like Stiff Little Fingers, who came up completely, obviously from another part of Britain, to come from Northern Ireland, and to they always seemed so fabulously angry, but in a really sort of accessible way. I know that sounds dumb, but you had the Pistols. As a kid you were terrified of Lydon because you thought he's going to come out and or Sid's going to come out and stab you or something. And then you thought the Stranglers, Jesus, I wouldn't want to be in an alleyway with them. The Damned, they look like, even though now you realise they were cartoons at the time, it's like, oh my God, it's Dracula. But here you had like,
from Hemel Hempstead,
4 blokes who came from like your class at school, a bit like the Undertones were, but far more. They seemed far more political.
Au Pairs and the Stiff Little Fingers had polemical punk in common, but although at the time they seemed completely different, I guess they did have that angry attitude in common, which you don't seem to get these days, do you? Do you get sort of angry bands for me? I suppose the Idols, are they angry?
Yeah, I think Idols are. Aunt Kneecap are pretty angry. Fontaine's DC are pretty angry. I mean, I think what's interesting, and they say in the feature that actually Stiff Little Fingers, SLF, were a lot less political than people think they are, because of Alternative Ulster and Suspect Device and
that's right. People think
material.
All the songs to be about the Troubles, but in fact, they reckon only 1 or 2 of their songs are actually addressing that.
Yeah, but I mean, how fabulous that they did in such a way that maybe put it on agendas that, to certainly put it into the pop chart and into the understanding of kids, where we just grown up with the Troubles being on telly and sort of just, thinking it was this sort of terrible thing and not really understanding the history. And I think, that, and then you had Roland coming out doing Dance and all that, which took you on a voyage of sort of understanding or trying to understand. And, pop used to be so fabulous for that, take you on a journey.
Yeah, that was pop at its most political, wasn't it? Though we were quite happy when it seemed to be depoliticised during the next phase, which was the sort of new romantic, white funk, new pop era. Although you could very easily argue that a lot of that work was informed by the political developments of the time. They were just done ever so subtly and thus subversively. I mean, there probably are many tracks that you could name now that, oh, hold on, that was about the state of England.
Well, I'll tell you one that was very much a political number is another one of the fabulous turns in our new issue is China Crisis.
Okay.
Because Jack Watkins speaks to Gary Daly, who is an incredibly erudite and amusing man. Because African and White, their first single, which was their calling card, if you like, was about apartheid. And again, that was another great topic of the early 80s. And obviously that was like 2 years before Nelson Mandela's single. But I mean, because they were China Crisis, you know, those that really knew. But I mean, you'd say to the passing person on the Todmorden tram about China Crisis, I just think, oh, fey pop, fretless bass, daft song titles.
Yeah, that's true. Actually, yeah, very good. Yeah,
from a you know, I mean, obviously, daft song titles was quite their thing, and I mean, King in a Catholic style. So what was that? I mean, that album, different. I always have to read it. Difficult shapes and passive rhythms. Some people think it's fun to entertain. One of the best debuts of the 80s. I really love that record.
I think I'm glad you rate them because I thought of them as the forgotten synth duo. There's so many of them have had accolades in recent times. Yazoo and DAF and Cabaret Voltaire actually, who were in the last issue.
I was trying to put my hand on my copy of that first album because I played it to death.
Oh, okay.
And I saw them. They played the Cliffs Pavilion, which is our local venue, which I seem to manage to mention every single time we do an episode. But they played there in I think June, July 1983, headlining. And they only played for 40 minutes. And, even then you're used to a bit more value. They basically just ran through the album and a B-side, and that was it. And their stage presence wasn't, it was very much nodding, which was great. But the support, unsigned at that point, was Howard Jones. And he had everything to prove. And he had little Jed with his
on the chain.
Plastic chain and everything.
Yeah.
And, of course, there's, he's bouncing around the stage and Jed's doing a bit of the old mime. And he actually blew China Crisis off the stage.
Oh, right, okay.
I know I would much, much rather listen to China Crisis than Howard Jones. No offence, Howard, lovely man, I hear from everybody.
It was a great period for heavy, dark matters dealt with in a really melodic way. I mean, look at Tears for Fears. Joy Division for teenies, weren't they, really? That was really heavy stuff. And it turns out that they had pretty heavy lives and pasts.
Oh yeah, I mean they
the music.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I think Weller, who mentioned it earlier, but the light touch of the council music, sort of supper jazz whilst talking about Dachau and talking about the Lords, abolishing the House of Lords or any equality. We don't have to take that crap. We don't have to sit back and relax. We can actually try and changing things. I mean, what's fascinating is at the moment, so that fabulous Bruce Springsteen record where he's gone back, he's gone political. Billy Bragg's brought one out. I was just thinking, what would it take for Weller and maybe Dylan to finally sort of return then? Not that I think they ever would, but that would be fascinating.
You mean to release an 11th hour diatribe against Trump and try to oust him from power by using people power? Oh, that'd be good.
Well, have you heard the Bruce single?
I have,
Streets
yeah.
of Minute.
It's not a great. But then I guess the point of it is not to be great; it's to be impactful.
Yeah, I mean, it's back to sort of Lennon doing "Power to the People" and Instant Karma, sort of instant response records. Harrison with Bangladesh. I mean, it's Band-Aid. It's those sort of things where you sort of think about it afterwards. It's quality, but at that moment you just feel driven to want to do something. Is
it happening on? Are people playing it on the radio? I haven't heard it on the radio, but
well, I think it's whatever it was high in the charts at the start of the week. I mean, it will be some there or thereabouts, and I just think it's great that someone like Springsteen, he doesn't need the work, but is so oppositional to him and not frightened to say exactly what he thinks. It's really good.
You're talking about Weller, but actually at the time of Style Council, they would have been their music was melodic but full of angry and invective in terms of the lyrics. But he
Yeah.
would have despised the ABCs and the Human Leagues and seen it as soft and escapist entertainment. Of course, Human League were every bit as left wing as
Oh,
Weller
absolutely.
was. It's funny,
Absolutely.
isn't it? You don't get the sense. I mean, I kind of miss that sense of antipathy and tension between tribes and political parties and
But
you know,
I think
scenes.
there's far less places to read. I mean, it's on the internet now. I'm sure people are saying these things, but we're not seeing it. I think when it was filtered through Smash Hits or The Face or NME, you know, you saw these. I mean, I remember Nick Hayward, we mentioned before. You know, he and Weller actually, you know, have become great friends over the years, seeing each other on the circuit. But I always remember Weller just sort of saying, "Yeah, I've got a dog and I'm calling him Hayward." You know, so because it was like '82. You know, you had the Jam doing Precious at one end, and you had Haircut 100 Love +1 in the same chart.
Yeah.
And I mean, they just seemed so, you know, opposite to each other.
Yeah. Whereas now
But
they
then-
just seem like really great examples of early 80s melodic.
Well, you know, you think of Town Called
Funky.
Malice, you know, a great bit of social commentary. But I mean, that unites the dance floor. It's like I don't know, the Jumping Jack Flash of its generation or whatever. Everyone loves it.
Yeah.
You better cut down on beer or the kids' new gear. It's a big decision in the town called Malice. Ooh. Lots of thick neck mods like it. All right, mate. All right.
Yeah, but
all
look
right.
at-
Winner,
Let's see if we can recite a bit of Lemon Fire Brigade for added.
Oh, why? Lemon Fire Brigade. Oh.
That always spoke to me more directly than the Star Council's. The Jams, the Precious.
Oh,
I think.
I was very happy with both of them. I tell you,
Yeah, it was good.
Very
It was good
happy
to
with
it's
both.
good to have both around. That's very true.
Now, China Crisis, don't forget they're in our new issue.
Yes.
But also another scene, and I have to say this is where I bow to everyone else's knowledge, is Megadeth. Dave
I was just going to say, yeah, no. Great to have the interview. Great to speak to him.
Isn't
I've
it?
never quite. Yeah, I mean, I went on the road with Metallica back in the 90s.
Oh,
and I wrote
of
about.
course you
I
did.
interviewed Anthrax, but I still don't quite. It was. They were the dawn of speed metal, weren't they? Was that right?
Speed, yes, I really think you called Speed. You were saying,
There was because what were the big three? Slayer, Metallica, and Anthrax, weren't they? Weren't they kind of this?
yeah,
the
yeah,
Holy
in the first.
Trinity?
In the first wave, I mean, Megadeth, because Megadeth were just a bit odd because they came out. He was in Metallica, wasn't he? I believe he was
right.
in Metallica, wasn't he?
was
Dave
ousted
Mustaine.
very, very early. Yeah, there was some great writing about in the Melody Maker where I used to work about that music. It was a different way of regarding metal. It was taken really seriously and not just the usual stuff about hair and behavior behind the scenes. It was a real serious attempt to get to grips with the materiality of sound, as they used to put it. They really, because it was a new development for rock. It was really economical and honed to perfection and just sort of laceratingly impactful.
Well, you know, it sort of did for rock what, you know, grunge Nirvana did for sort of post-punk and new wave afterwards. It sort of made a sense to it that it wasn't, because, you know, bear in mind at this time you've also got hair metal running parallel. So you got your Poisons and your Cinderellas,
which is the absolute antithesis, isn't it? It's complete,
and then you.
It's a completely different level of aesthetic consciousness.
Yeah, and but then you've also got Guns N' Roses, who to me always had a foot in both camps. I mean, I think there was definitely, you know, an element with them of that sort of theatre of the Poisons and whatever. But you know, when they rocked, it was, you know, there was speed elements in there. There were things like that. But
it's an interesting one. I always thought of the Slayers and the Panteras and Metallica and Megadeth as metal distilled down to its purest essence, with no frivolity or none of the sort of extra trappings of you know the Poisons and et al. But also Guns N' Roses. Maybe they do provide the bridge. Don't know.
But then I find, you know, as I often say, and I've got so many friends who are metalheads, and they are genuinely some of the nicest people I know. I mean, there's a thing. Someone was saying this on telly or whatever, that the sort of harder actually it was at the horror festival I was at the other week. You know, the more gruesome people make horror films, the nicer the people they are, and the more extreme metal are some of the most gentle people I've ever met, who would, look after you, be the first to help if you needed them.
The first people to babysit your children.
Well, sort of, but you listen to, and I say I love everything about metal apart from the music. I love how, it was strange because I can listen to unlistenable prog. It's not like I have a problem with sort of, heavy sounds. I love the Fall. Hey, I've got music concrete in my collection. Peter Hammer is my David Bowie, as I often say. So I don't mind a challenge. But Metallica, I've really tried. The Black Album, I own it in various formats. I've got it over the years, and I wish it could, because I saw them at Reading one year, and I realised I'd been watching the sound check for about half an hour, which was amazing because everyone was going absolutely mad for, guitar roadies and things like that, and the way that their lack of show became the show. And that was more, when they came out, I just thought this is more theatrical than, someone wearing a cape.
Oh, okay. Yeah, because, it's easy to say, because it was said of the grunge generation, that was America's punk. But, maybe the speed metal generation were also the punk. The idea of distilling, purifying, or honing down and extracting everything.
I think they definitely enabled grunge to happen. And of course, also, don't forget that sort of, the deaf American, that whole sort of overlap with where rap was as well. You'd got the Beasties, Rick Rubin grafting on metal beats, Aerosmith and Run DMC, all of that was going into the pot as well.
Oh, yeah. So Public Enemy did Bring the Noise, didn't they, with Anthrax? Yeah. They did work together.
So
in other words, my complaint a little earlier on that there was no synergy between black and white music after the a certain ratio pop group post-punk reggae absorbing generation. Actually, it's not true. There was still some degree of hybridization, although was there. I mean, I don't know. Public Enemy and Anthrax doing Bring the Noise, is that them absorbing each other's cultures, or is that a sort of a frictional alliance where really you could take both apart and they're both exactly as they were, put them back together? There isn't the same sense of absorption. This is very pretentious.
No, but then I think you listen to the Beasties and you listen to how that first album was basically constructed around sort of Zeppelin drum samples and Sabbath guitar, even if it wasn't, to me it sounds like that. And I think that allowed a sort of niche for groups like Slayer to sort of come through, even though they don't sound like that at all. But I think the sort of people that like that, like Slayer, and Slayer to me, I mentioned the Black Album with Metallica, Rain in Blood, Slayer, the amount of people who are about 3 or 4 years younger than me who cite that record as
greatest album ever.
The greatest album ever.
Yeah.
And I've tried and I've tried and I've tried, and it's just like it really must be an age thing. But it's wonderful, and they did that box set with the bath of blood in it and things a few years ago on it, and it's a, if I may use the word without straying too far into Leicester territory, epochal in its way.
It is epochal. You're epochal.
We're all epochal.
I've long thought that. Here,
but Rain in Blood, and if you got it, it's actually it's still quite reasonable. It's 30-40 quid as an album. And there was that soundtrack to the Apocalypse. That was the ammo box with the backstage laminate and flag and everything. That was good fun, I'll tell you. Anyway, that's by the by. We're running out of time, aren't we?
Well,
you
got me thinking. When I put the phone down on you, I'll slam it down with aggressive intent. I'm very much moved to go and listen to Rain in Blood. You piqued my interest.
Well, no, and I will do it too. And I in fact, I urge all of our listeners and viewers to do the same and maybe comment on it below, because I would love, there's that moment they say that at some point you read Ulysses and you suddenly get it, or you watch, I don't know, Kurosawa, he's a director, isn't he? You watch it and get The Seventh Samurai, or whatever, Fellini's 8.5, other films I've heard of but not seen. You see it and you get it, and I'm waiting for that day. I love nothing more than unlocking a musical puzzle.
Well, I've got loads of those out there that people, famous bands that you'd think you'd love at this point, and I just don't. But that's a good thing, as you point out, because it means I've still got loads to discover. And I've realised over the weekend I've never heard a Quicksilver Messenger Service album in my life. Happy Trails. I read the review in the issue. I thought, I have no idea. And even from the review, I didn't quite get a sense of what it would sound like. So I thought, this is quite exciting. So I'm going to go and listen to it at some point.
Moby Grape's a great one. I don't know if you ever listened to Moby Grape.
I have. I just cannot remember. I didn't take any of it in. But I read reviews citing it to be one of the greatest things in history.
Well, and Skip Spence is a sort of, Alex Chilton, Nick Drake sort of thing of his, Chris Bell.
Tortured, doomed Narcissus.
In his lane, as I use that word.
Punk genius. I love all those.
But no, I mean, I think it's great, and I do try and do it. It's a Beautiful Day was another one of those groups that was always in the NME Encyclopedia of Rock, and it had a big picture of the cover. And I thought I must, and I've heard it now. It's all right.
Well, yeah.
But the thing is, that's the great thing with Spotify. I mean, I know it's lovers and haters. I can suddenly think, I wonder what that sounds like, and I was reviewing for the next issue. Charles Stepney as a compilation of his productions that's coming out, and of course, I love Charles Stepney's productions. How can you, even though you've heard Les Fleurs so many times, it's still so beautiful. And also, That's the Way of the World, Earth, Wind and Fire, fantastic. One of the greatest records ever made. Anyway, he did an album. His daughter released an album a few years ago of his sort of demos called Step on Step. I never knew it existed. I've heard it now, and it's brilliant. It does.
It's a great temptation to be experimental, isn't it? Spotify. It urges you to step out of your lane and into different territories. Because why
Indeed.
not? It's completely free. You've got nothing to lose. Why wouldn't you?
Yeah.
Well, I was going to mention. Go on.
Yeah. No, there's lots of reasons for it or not. And another one, my final one on that is, Bob Weir died. And obviously, lots of people love the Dead, and all respect to them. Again, I've tried and tried, and it's like, it's okay. It's not Man, is it? I mean, Man,
I don't know anything about the Dead. I've never listened to, but the band I love that's a bit deadish, but I much prefer is Spirit. I love Spirit. The 4 epic albums from the 60s to 1970s. Dr. Sardonicus, and then the 4 comeback albums I like even more on Mercury.
Yeah, and of course Randy California plays on a Peter Hamill album.
That's right. He talks about Randy California. I meant to email you when I read that. I thought, I wish there was more of him on him, so you could do it as a sidebar and just tell me about the meeting with Randy.
Yeah. No, they played, and he wanted to play with him again, but Randy died. But no, that's right. There's these lovely little niches. And like you mentioned Quicksilver, John Cipollina was the guitarist in Quicksilver, and he played with Man on their 1975 tour.
Oh, is that right?
Because there was a sort of synergy between them, good, sort of rocking. I mean, when Man locked into a groove, I mean, they really were the masters of repetition. And I love the fact they chose the name Man because they wanted the hippiest name ever. So someone said, "What's the name of your band, Man?" Man.
Very good.
Anyway,
in this issue, I should say though, just to end, actually, as a way of teasing next issue, there's a review by Terry Staunton of the latest album by Squeeze, which is, as I think we know by now, isn't the latest album as such. It's an old album given luster and life 20, 30, 50 years on, which is an incredible thing. I've never heard this story told before. It's never happened in music, where a bunch of 19 to 21-year-olds, i.e. Chris Stifford and Glenn Tilbrook, get together, record some demos, in 73, I believe, and then forget all about them, and then return to them 54 years later, is that right? 53 years later, and they're releasing that album. It's called Trixes in a couple of weeks, and it's really, really good. And we've proclaimed it on the front, well, we review it in this issue, in that issue, but we proclaimed it on, can I show the proof of the next cover? I don't know if we should do that. But I'll give you. I'll flash it up there. Flash it up. Yeah.
Look at that.
We call this latest Squeeze album called Trixes their best album in 45 years, which is suggesting that it's their best since East Side Story, which is easily their best album, isn't it? I mean, I don't think there's any arguments there.
Yeah, I mean, well, I don't want to be that person who's always, sort of. But they did an album called Play, which for me is my favourite Squeeze album. The poetry on side 2 is off the chart, but yeah, East Side Story is the
one.
is the
But
one.
the new one, it's quite. They're going on tour with Sparks, aren't they? In a couple of months, and it's really Sparksy or 10cc-ish. It's got that more kind of, just feels more. Squeeze always felt quite laid back and tuneful, whereas there's a real kind of energy and intensity to
Yeah, there was a bit of herky jerky in the early days. I mean, like Cat
right.
on the Wall and Slap and Tickle. What a
Yeah,
number
Slap
that
and
was.
Tickle, yeah, of course.
But yeah,
Well
and that
reminded.
first, was all a bit sort of angular when everything was a bit angular. But then, yeah, it became a lot smoother. But as I said last year, see Squeeze in concert now. They are, like I said, the only other group I felt like that is Talking Heads when I saw them in the 80s. It was just like proper showmanship, proper. This is how you treat a catalogue of over 50 years by
Fantastic.
giving that balance of giving the fans exactly what they want, but giving the band what they want as well, and how to work something mutually beneficial without sort of po-facedly playing their new album as a piece and then neglecting, Another Nail in My Heart. It was all there. And I think with Trixies, they are going to play it as a piece because it's it's the concept, but you're not going to go home shortchanged in any way.
Well, they're going to do what Sparks did. Where they did, was it Little Beethoven and then the hits, or a more recent one than that? They played the new album and then all the hits, 2 sets. Like 10cc.
And I will say one more time, what's his name? Glenn Tilbrook is one of the most underrated guitar players in popular music. He is phenomenal. And I think he's the South London Ernie Isley. When he burns up those frets,
very good.
I've got nothing but tremendous respect for him.
So you probably think it's a good idea that we have them on the cover. Not only do we have them on the cover, we have them over 18 pages. We've got a 6-page overview and history of the band, talking to Chris and Glenn, obviously. Then we go record shopping to Brighton with Chris Difford. And then we go and visit Glenn Tilbrook in his recording studio, 45 RPM in South London, and they both show us, he shows us some of his record collection. So it's a great piece, and it really does.
It's a lovely piece.
And I think the first front cover, I suggested this to the PR, Sue Harris, and she's a bit quizzical, but I think it's true. The first front cover they've had from a British publication, or any publication, but certainly a British one, since 1981 NME, summer 81. Can you think of a time when Squeeze have been put on the cover? But this is definitely a moment that invites front cover.
When we spoke about it right back in October or whenever, it was just like and coming off the back of seeing them again last year, it's just like they were taken for granted for too long, and they sort of took themselves for granted for too long. And they did the classic, went away, did their own thing, and then came back, and it was one way. And now they come back, and it's like, good boys.
Yes, exactly. And then they played the O2 later this year because they supported Madness at the O2 last year. And they're doing their own shows with Billy Bragg in support of them.
Billy Bragg, Billy Bragg. So that'll be a lovely night out.
See you there.
Lovely night out. Now,
so I think we're there. Yeah.
We look forward to reconvening next month. Next month we'll be talking more about Squeeze. It's there. I would like to ask you, Paul, before we go, what you're listening to at the moment. What is tickling your fancy?
I'm about to listen to Quicksilver Messenger Service and Slayer.
I must make a note of right.
Because I've been making an attempt over the last few months to listen to something that I'd never heard before. Incredible as it may sound after 55 years of furiously listening to music. Just so much stuff I haven't even touched. That's before you even get to new music, and there's so much new music I want to check out as well. So that's what I've been busy doing. What about you?
I mean, I have to say I'm with you, and my problem is when I hear something that I've never heard before, if I listen to it on Spotify or on YouTube or something, I have to stop myself from wanting to buy it. Right. It's always like this. I want to own that, and it's like, no, actually, it's all right. You don't have to own it.
It will still be there in the morning.
It'll still be there, and I think there is always that fear that it might not be. But I've been really enjoying the group, and I know it sounds like really poncy, but I did actually take the plunge on this. It's on the Melodic label. and it's Formal Speedwear are their name, and Speedwear is spelled SPPEED, so they've gone Speedwear, and from Stoke-on-Trent.
Okay.
And I just, someone asked me, occasionally people say, oh, what you listen to? And I said, well, that. And they listened to it, and they said, oh my God, this is great. It is, get ready for your touchstones, Scary Monsters Meeting Remaining Light.
Oh, very good.
And they're all in their 20s, so, bring it on.
It wouldn't be remotely out of beyond the realms of possibility that they would love those two examples of music. They'd love Scary Monsters, and who doesn't, amongst the youngsters today, who doesn't love Remaining Light? That's one of the albums I've noticed from my son and his friends and that generation of people. I'm not surprised, because it's an astonishing piece of work still.
It is amazing, isn't it, how it has survived. But then I suppose if you're going to make a record that's timeless, then it's going to survive. Yeah,
because when it came out, it didn't necessarily feel like a record of the... I didn't think at the time, oh, this sounds very much marred in the early 80s. I don't know, it just felt like a great piece of work.
Yeah,
you can't plan for it.
I think the thing, because it's basically a Fela Kuti album, we hadn't really heard Fela Kuti at that time. Right. And just to hear...
I know people say that. People say, oh, it's a Can album.
It's not a Can album. No, it's not a Can album. It's a Fela album.
Mm.
And, yeah, Fela. What a man. But that's for another day. Anyway.
Rising tension.
Listen, I've had a lovely time. This is Needlepoint. This is our... what is 12th? The 13th? 12th? We should know these sort of things. I know we'll be back. We have a schedule for the whole year, and we will be getting guests coming through later in the year once we've continued to master the art of what we do. So I will say, please join us, subscribe us, like us, comment. Tell us what albums you're going back to listen to. Tell us what doesn't quite, you should like it, but you can't quite get it. Tell us more about that. But for now, I'll say my name is Daryl Easlea.
And I've been Paul Lester, and it's been a pleasure talking to you and having fun chatting to this gentleman over here who keeps freezing and freaking me out. And he's back again. And hopefully we'll speak to you and see you in a few weeks.
See you soon.
Bye.
Cotton on to Needlepoint.
Needlepoint, the Record Collector podcast with Paul Lester and Daryl Easlea.